Hi, my name's Nala. I'm 9 years old. My dad is Robert Pezza. He's Australian. He's been imprisoned in Iraq for over a year. So please, Mr. Morrison, can you help him? I really miss him.
Nala Petha's message is constant.
Hi, I'm Nala Petha. My dad is Robert Petha. He's been in a jail in Iraq for 674 days.
All that changes are the names of the leaders she's addressing.
So can you please, Prime Minister Albanese and Prime Minister al-Sudani, please help him get out of jail and his colleague?
It's been almost 2.5 years since Nala and her brothers last hugged their father, Sydney engineer Robert Petha. The family now lives in Ireland, but Nala and her mum are in Australia to ask the government to lobby for her dad's release. She's had to grow up awfully quickly.
Do your friends talk to you about what's happened?
No, it's kind of hard to explain to 9-year-olds and 8-year-olds.
They must know, though.
Well, I basically had to tell them.
And what do you say to them?
I say he's in jail in Iraq. Don't really give an explanation because it's really hard to explain.
That's quite an understatement. Her father's jailing is hard for adults to understand. For more than 5 years, Robert Petha was a senior engineer on one of Iraq's most prestigious construction projects, the soaring central bank tower on the banks of the Tigris River. Then a contract dispute erupted between the engineering company he worked for and the client, Iraq's central bank. Petha was critical to the negotiations.
He had to go back to Dubai and then Iraq because there was this ongoing financial dispute. And I just had a feeling, I just had this weird feeling. I didn't want him to go back. I'd actually suggested that we just shut everything down and come back to Australia.
Before her husband's final trip to Baghdad, Desiree Petha took this brief video.
I love you with all my heart and soul, gorgeous.
I just had this feeling. So he brought me in a coffee and we were just about to leave for the airport. And he said it. He said, "I love you." I can't say the whole thing because I'll start crying. He said it and I just said, "Say it again," and videoed it. And like I wanted to capture it.
I love you with all my heart and soul, gorgeous.
In April 2021, Robert Petha and a colleague were called to Baghdad for a meeting with the head of Iraq's central bank. After the meeting, police burst in and arrested the pair. There was a brief trial. Robert Petha was jailed for 5 years and personally fined $12.1 million. A UN expert group found the men were detained to win leverage in a commercial transaction in violation of international law. It said they should be immediately released and compensated.
Robert Petha was essentially taken hostage because of a commercial dispute between his company and the Iraqi central bank. He's not there because of anything he's done. He's an entirely innocent man who's just there as a representative of his company.
If there's one person who can empathise with Robert Petha and his family, it's Kylie Moore-Gilbert. The Melbourne academic was detained in Iran for 2 years on baseless allegations of spying. She and Petha have exchanged letters.
I think the key to these experiences is to use them to gain strength and not to have them define the rest of your life.
I was struck by his thoughtfulness and his tone of positivity. And I know that he's not always positive, and nor was I, and it's almost impossible to keep a positive mentality when you're living through such a hellish situation.
The Morrison government said it made almost 100 approaches to the Iraqi government, but Kylie Moore-Gilbert believes they moved too slowly in the months between Petha's arrest and his conviction 5 months later.
I would say that precious time was lost, particularly at the beginning of his arrest. A precious window of time existed there to try and get him out of this situation before it became a matter of the justice system in Iraq, before his case was passed to the judiciary and he was put on trial.
She says the Albanese government should appoint an envoy to help Robert Petha.
To me, it makes sense to appoint somebody who can go over to Iraq, somebody who perhaps has connections to the Iraqis already, and can sit down with them and be tasked explicitly with negotiating Robert Pether's release.
Desiree Pether believes the Australian government could go even further.
Countries that sign on to the UN agreements for human rights and international law need to be held accountable when they flagrantly abuse them.
And so what did Penny Wong say when you asked her for an envoy and for sanctions against Iraq?
That she would look into it and that it would be considered, and that, you know, she'd take on board all of my suggestions and my requests and go from there. And she assured me that he was a top priority.
The chair of Federal Parliament's Intelligence Committee, Labor MP Peter Khalil, says Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong have directly lobbied their Iraqi counterparts on behalf of Robert Pether.
Circumstances have changed significantly very recently. There's a new central bank governor, there is a new Iraqi prime minister, a new Iraqi government in place, new attorney general, and so that there is this opportunity to really engage with the new authorities with respect to Robert's case.
What do you want more than anything in the world right now?
To get him out and come live in Australia.
What are you going to do when you see him again?
We're going to go to Luna Park and do a lot of other stuff that we wanted to do with him.